This is Between Hook Sets. I'm Jason Walter from In Through the Outdoors with my partner in slime, Kurt Underhill from the Fishing Crew.
You looked really upset after that hook set, bud.
I looked upset?
You look upset.
What?
You look like you missed it big time.
Oh, no, I felt it. It was there. I'm only 4 days between hook sets, so I'm feeling pretty good. And we leave for Winnipeg tomorrow morning about 10:30. So we were going to go up there. Now, here's the crazy thing. I finally found a guy that wanted to go up and just explore. Not necessarily fishing, but figure out all the Airbnbs, the VRBOs, figure all that stuff out, figure out, learn Selkirk, really don't have to deal with Winnipeg at all. And then just kind of learn the lake and the landing and the lay of the land and everything like that. So my buddy Kirk said, hey, I'm in on that. Well, then we decided that because the weather's so nice, we better fish. So we're going to take a Ranger up there with tracks. Don't need him, but he bought a brand new one, so we're going to fiddle around with that. And then we rented a Snow Bear for a day. They actually had an open day on Saturday. Everybody else was pretty well booked up. Blackwater Cats, of course, those guys we're not even going to bother them because they got real business and that's fantastic. So I hope I get a chance to talk to them, but we're going to try that and just experiment and see how it goes. So I'm kind of pumped about trying that.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be fun to hear the feedback from what you find on your exploratory mission.
Yeah.
We have the Pier WFW this weekend which is a kind of unique tournament itself. You can fish from land, you can fish from the ice, or you can fish from the boat, you can fish for any species. So with the ever-changing 40, 50-degree weather, ice fishing could be really interesting. My plan from last weekend could not be a plan. I don't know. Going to do a little exploratory mission tomorrow. Check ice conditions, check edges, see stuff like that, and figure out what we're going to do. I've heard possibility of rain, so that could really play a mix into things. So I don't know what we're going to do this weekend, but it's not the big deal. It's $500 to win, but there's $100 and some $1,000 in cash and prizes given away. So that's the fun part.
Yeah, well, where can they get the details on that?
The Pier WFW website and their Facebook page. I know they're having an online raffle. I believe it goes through tonight. Tomorrow they're going to draw for that online raffle. So if you guys want to check that out, check out Pier WFW to his Facebook page and find the information on that online. Anybody can get in raffle. So hope to go win some prizes and have some fun with buddies. My buddies that went to Winnipeg a few weeks ago, we always meet up with them and we always get together and fish. So it's usually a good time. So
dandy. Well, you can see Benny in the background here. Looks like he's predicting open water sooner than later.
He's got a long rod, yeah.
Yeah, he does.
So,
yeah, no doubt.
Speaking of open water, I mean, our guest tonight is probably dabbles in ice fishing, but kind of known for his open water stuff. And on the National Walleye Tour, and made his way up, worked his way up. I've been watching Corey a long time, and made the jump to the NWT a few years ago, and has had some good success. So let's bring on Corey Heiser. How are we doing, Corey?
Corey,
good, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on, especially now. We tried to stay relevant. We're trying to get Dan Spengler on because we want to talk about the Credge and the finisher and all that fun stuff for actually ice fishing and some open water. But it isn't working out because he's super busy. And then you were just the next guy on the list that said super relevant. Because honestly, are we going to have ice in March? Who knows? If we continue with this going the way it is, the river's probably going to see boats on it sooner than later. So a great time to talk to you about all the stuff you've got going on. You've got Lowrance, you got Brew City, and there's so many things going on. You're taking a trip to Texas. So I don't know where to start. So how about we let you start?
Well, I can sure do that. You guys talk about ice fishing. It's funny as I've transitioned kind of into full-time professional angler, I find myself with the rep responsibilities and all of those things, ice fishing less and less. So I haven't been on the ice this year. Actually, take that back. I did some on the ice training for Brew City and Lowrance for Shields first week of December when there was barely any ice. We were out by Detroit Lakes, and that is literally the only time I've been on the ice this year. But it's funny. I look at my calendar, and I'm just a few weeks away from going to Lake Erie. So I've been in the garage a lot, spooling up some reels and getting all the tackle in line for this season.
Wow.
Yeah, and are you running the same boat, or are you getting a new one? Because pretty much the products that you are really involved with, I mean, you're involved a lot, but the main products you're involved with come around rigging a boat. So I've always wanted to go talk about rigging and figuring out the right techniques, and you're kind of the guy for that.
Well, I appreciate that. I actually, the new Ranger should be here hopefully next week. And then I believe it's the 19th. I got a trip down to Rochester, National Fleet Graphics. So putting the Happy Harry's wrap on that one. I've got, it'll look just like that one, except last year was a 620. This will be a 621. Full of Lowrance units, all mounted on stable mounts. And then we'll have plenty of Brew City poles stationed around that battle wagon for sure.
Yeah. I honestly, that is the coolest looking boat. Maybe I'm a little, you notice that I'm even sporting the green backdrop, a little bit of green back there for you. Maybe I have a little bit of a connection with Happy Harry since I went to school and worked for Y94 and Fargo when I was younger, and Happy Harry's in Grand Forks. It was just, Happy Harry's Bottle Barn. Seriously. I can't wait till I'm 21. And actually, at the time, you only had to be 19. But anyway,
you're kind of.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you're dating yourself. You better be careful with that.
Yeah, sorry. I've learned that these date me anyway. So, what the heck? It's just kind of fun to roll with it. But you got one of the most cool jerseys too. I love that green. I think it's great for a boat, and it looks great for the NWT too. I mean, obviously they used it because it's cool.
Yeah, and what's really neat about it is you can't tell from a distance, but if you get close to that boat, it looks like there's like a pattern of camouflage built in. But if you get close to it, it's actually bottles. So it's wine and liquor bottles. That's what gives that boat all the texture. And I got to give my wife Tara a lot of credit for that. She designed that wrap, and it's Happy Harry's was super excited about it, and I love running it because we get a lot of attention, especially in the tri-state area. People are excited to tell me their Happy Harry bottle shop stories. So
isn't that great? I love it. I think it's a great sponsor, great color, and you look really good out on the water, no doubt. So let's get here, because I have a feeling we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff, and I know when it comes to electronics, because I talk to a lot of people that ask about electronics, and in my business, in the storytelling business and the radio business, if I'm talking to you or I'm talking to Brian Brosdahl, or it doesn't matter who I'm talking to, I decided I was a Humminbird guy. I had Humminbird. I bought my first core units in 2013, and I was diehard. I had the 360. I had the 360 on the ice back in 2014, and I even had, I don't want to call it the pleasure. I ended up looking for missing people under the ice. That was really interesting because I had the only Humminbird unit that had 360 portable enough to take out on the ice. But being a staunch Humminbird guy, I ended up thinking I should have Garmin and Lowrance so I can talk to Corey or to Bro or whoever. So, the thing for people listening, if you're in between and don't know what you want to do, I always tell people, here's my story. 10 solid years with Humminbird only. I went to Lowrance, actually, I'd say 9. I went to Lowrance and I was angry at my HDS Live because I couldn't figure it out. And that was in the fall. And to give it all of the due diligence, the next spring, I went out with no rods, no bait, no nothing. I went and I used that HDS 7 until I was into that thing like there was no tomorrow. Every button was second nature. I fell in love with it. And that summer, of 2022, I never turned my Hummingbird on once.
Wow.
I went and bought a second HDS 7. I paired them. I got a small boat. I'm a 16-foot. I'm the little Lund guy. And so I've got the 7s. I don't need to have anything more than that. I did buy TI2. So I've got 3 units. I've not used the Active Target 2. I hope to use it sometime. But for those people that are wondering, Lowrance is honestly, in my mind, a great set it and forget it deal. Hey, Zach. I don't find myself fiddling with and tweaking as much as I do with the Humminbird. The Garmin, the Live Scope, I just leave that thing sit too. I tweak depending on the lake. But the Lowrance surprised the daylights out of me, and I fell in love with Lowrance.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I've been on Lowrance's pro staff, I think, since maybe 2000. So like 20 some years already. And actually, what happened a few years back, before I had sold my company and decided to go into this full time, I had a buddy that said, "Hey, can you help a guide client of mine out with his Lowrance stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do that." And I said, Cody Roswick, actually, a lot of people know him from out in Valley City. Anyways, he runs all Humminbird stuff, and he called me and said he had a good client that needed help with his Lowrance units. And I said, "Well, yeah, I'd be happy to help him." And I asked Cody flat out. I said, "Do you think there's an opportunity to kind of market and get out in people's boats and set their units up the way they want them?" I think, so many guys get hung up on how they run stuff. And obviously, I have a preference on how I like my stuff to look at my boat, but that might be different than you, Kurt, maybe different than you, Chase. And so, what I like to do is make sure they understand how their unit works, how the transducers work, and then kind of get a feel for them to set their units up how I feel like they're really going to get the most out of them, make their life the easiest. And I've been blessed because I get trained by Lowrance every year. I do a lot of in-store stuff, do a lot of Shields training with Lowrance. So I always kind of am on the leading edge of what's coming and what we've got out. And I try to help people get the most out of them. So I spend one-on-one time with people in their boats, close to their home, and hopefully get them to enjoy their electronics even more.
Yeah, well, I think you hit it. I think you hit it on the head. You get a new unit, everybody tells you how to set it up. Until you get on the water and you start tweaking with it, it's just, looking at one guy's live to the next guy's live. You're like, well, I want that and I want that. So how do I make that work? And it's great you get them set up, but that's even better that you go out there and you walk through the unit with them, set it up to how they want it. I'm sure there's some back end settings that you set every time. We're going to turn this on. We're going to do this, but now
a lot of times I do that, but most of the time I try to explain why. I think that's the other thing that gets missing is like, if I encourage someone to maybe, have a setting set, or if I tell them this page is how I like to run it, and then this is why, then maybe they'll choose to run it that way. And if they want it somewhere else, then I make sure we get it set up how they're comfortable, because I've just noticed if people are happy with their electronics, and feel like they're getting the most for them, then we have a better consumer. The boat dealers are happy. So it doesn't matter what kind of boat you run. I've helped people in their boats with all kinds of makes and models. The only thing is I only help you with Lowrance, and it's nothing against the other companies. I think the other companies have phenomenal products too. It's just I've been fortunate and blessed to get trained and understand those units, I would say better than most people. And so if I can share some of that expertise and knowledge and years of experience and make their life better, then we all win.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kurt.
So you talk about that, but when you're rigging these things, there's been a lot of discussion about the power coming to them. And, if you have clear view power or 8-gauge wire, or whatever it is coming to them, your units get better quality. Is that something when you get in there, is that something you do, number one? Number two, do you see it? You tell people, well, we could tweak it, but you're going to have to re-rig.
I don't do a lot of physical rigging for the customers that I work with. More of it's like button pushing and interpretation of what they're seeing. My good friend and guy I work with now, Bill Shimoda, He does a lot of rigging business, and I know he does a phenomenal job. He's down in the cities, and he does help out people with rigging their boats. One thing I will tell you though is, with all the bigger screens, with all the forward-facing sonars, I mean, battery and your wiring is a big deal. There's a lot of times when the picture just isn't as clear as it should be, and right away I'll know it's, maybe it's hooked to a battery with a trolling motor, or maybe their wires weren't shielded good enough. And a lot of times battery power just isn't there. I get asked this a lot, like last year in my boat, and I have no affiliation with Amped at all, Amped Outdoors, but I will tell you, I ran their batteries last year, and I actually ran a 160 amp hour house battery that housed 4 12s, 2 active targets. I had a 31 AGM that ran my big motor with a 16, a 12, and an active target. I had another 31 AGM for my kicker and accessories. And then I ran two 36 volt, 50 amp hour for my trolling motor. So I ended up with 5 batteries, but it's the equivalent, I would say, of about 11 batteries when you figure the total capacity. But for me, I ended up with, I had, I think, 5 12s and a 16, 3 active targets. Like, I can't afford to have my batteries get drained by the end of the day. So, and I do run all my own heavy gauge wires, run all my own fuse blocks inside my Ranger. So I do add that protection for myself. It definitely clears up the screen. While we talk about interference and cleaning screens, last year Lowrance came out with what they called ping sync. So if you're running multiple transducers, you can actually wire those together so that their pings on the transducers are synchronized so that you're not getting any interference. And I'll tell you, that was a huge deal. So like, on the bow of my boat, I had 2 active targets and a 3-in-1, and I had absolutely no interference between those transducers. So that was a really big improvement last year.
That's fantastic to hear. That's genius, really. It is, because if you're out there fishing with other people, the noise and the crosstalk and all the rain and the interference you get can really kind of wreck a trip if you're just diehard into watching that screen.
Yeah, it causes a lot of, they're shooting out similar frequencies. So if those same bands of frequencies interject, then it's going to, back talk, just like if you're on a microphone, or, in the old days when we had CB radios, you get too much frequency going on and then you get that backfeed. And that's essentially what happens with your electronics. So to be able to synchronize all those pingings from the transducers, it really made a big difference.
Well, so okay, off topic, how did your 250 amp hour 36 volts last for you? Because this is a question me and my mega lithium guy are talking about, is if it'll run walleye boats good enough.
Yep. So when I talked to Matt from AMP last year, I said, okay, if a guy comes in and he wants to run one 36 volt battery, what would you recommend? He said, probably the 36 volt 60 amp hour battery. And I said, well, what I want to do is run 2 batteries. So if one battery goes down, I always have a backup. So because of the footprint of the batteries, he's recommended the 2 separate 36 volt 50 amp hour. I absolutely had no drainage issues last year. I mean, I run long, hard days and never had a battery issue at all with my trolling motor last year. Now, I do run the Lowrance Ghost, which is all brushless and a very efficient motor. But, in this day of active target and forward-facing sonar, I spent a lot of time with my trolling motor. I can't give you exactly how long it would last, but I can tell you I put in a lot of 10-hour days and never had an issue.
That's good to hear. So there's 2 things here that are really important if people just jumped in and didn't quite catch it and understand it, and we'll get to Tanner here in a second. The first thing is to take your unit and practice with it. Doesn't matter whether you're on the ice or whether you're on open water, and then make sure you've got good power. And I experienced that over the weekend, this weekend, where I've got the Amped. I ran it 10 hours Saturday, used it until about 10:30 Saturday night, and it died on me. I took it home and I plugged it in, and I plugged it. I got it. I didn't get it plugged properly. I got it between the plastic shield and the clip, and it didn't charge properly. So there was a fella, Bryce was 30 yards from me. He let me use his lead acid battery, and my screen was noisy, which I don't mind anyway. I think people clean screens up too much, and they have too much filtering going on. and you're missing that split second opportunity to set the hook. But there again, power is a huge deal. So if anybody takes anything away from tonight, you've got to have good power. It doesn't matter what unit you have. If you've got Lowrance, Humminbird, or Garmin or whatever, you got to have the power and you got to practice with your unit. And there, I'll leave it at that. And you guys take it from there.
Well, we have a question.
Go ahead.
Is it best to let the transducers sit below the ice or just hanging it partially down the hole?
Ooh.
I always like to have it below the hole.
Yep.
Obviously, you get into Lake Winnipeg, late March situations where you got 4 or 5 feet of ice. That gets to be a bigger challenge. But I don't know. I guess I don't know the science behind it. I can't give you a real explanation of that. But I've always tried to have my transducer below the ice. I feel like the ice around the transducer is going to give you extra pinging. That's going to, I guess, bounce some of that noise back to that transducer, and I think you'll get a clearer picture having it below the ice.
Yeah, well, and it depends on what you've got your cone set at. If you have it set at 15 degrees or 20, 21, or you've got the wide cone angle, you're probably hitting the ice and you're missing stuff out on the fringe of the cone. So I always make sure mine's below the ice. I've experimented. I've left it right at the top. And it depends on the amount of water you're in and how thick the ice is as well. So I would always keep it at the bottom. Not that I'm a professional, but that's where I'm very comfortable with it, is right there at the bottom of the ice every time.
So let's transition again. You're into Lowrance. Anything new coming that you can let out of the bag, or is there any secrets coming, or should you just tell us just wait and see?
There is some stuff coming. I can't talk specifically about it, but last year was a big year for Lowrance with the Active Target 2s and the HDS Pro. So being around this for a long time, I would tell you, don't expect a lot of like head unit transducers. I mean, last year we released the HD transducers, the side scan fish reveal with the 3100 box, the pros, the Active Target 2s. So I would say in the realm of fish finding capabilities, I would say I would be patient, for another year to 2 to 3 years. It seems like that stuff rotates 2 to 4 years, especially on head units. But, Lowrance has other products, and I would suspect
to see some upgrades. 72-inch shaft?
The problem with that is, and it's funny, Kurt, I was told, because I used to run a Minn Kota Ultrex years ago, and I could never figure out why we never had a 72. And then my other biggest beef was, why is our bracket not long enough to host a 60, even a 60? Like, okay, right? So I find out, because the walleye market is smaller, and they sell a lot less 60-inch shaft trolling motors than 54s and 47s. They use the same bracket, which all that does is save them money. Otherwise, they'd have to make this monstrosity of a bracket if we get into 60 and 72-inch motors. So for the foreseeable future, I don't know if we're going to see a bigger bracket. That's always driven me nuts, because you got the 60-inch shaft trolling motor, and then you got 6 or 8 inches of it above the bracket and the collar. So you're really only running a 54 the way it is.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you about Active Target 2, because I'm really kind of curious. I've not had a chance to use it. When you're out there using the filters, the Garmin's got the Ghost filter, it's got the TVG, it's got the noise filter. You start putting all of that stuff on medium or high, or even sometimes on low, and everything reacts so slow. I lift up, but then things start to follow. And in my world, I'm thinking, people, if you're filtering your screen so clean that you get this, you're missing that split second hook set. You're missing out, because it's already happened. You missed it a split second ago. What does Lowrance have for filters, and can we over filter with the Active Target 2?
Well, I would tell you, any kind of sonar. I don't care if it's 2D. I don't care if it's your down and side scan, what it is. Anytime you turn up the filters, so if you turn on noise rejection, and you turn all that stuff on, and you turn your sensitivities down because you don't like to see all that stuff on the screen, you're allowing those filters to take place. And now there's maybe clues in the water that you're missing. I guess I don't even worry so much about like the hook set part of the thing. But if I'm driving around trying to graph, or I'm scanning for fish with Active Target 2, or like I said, my down scan 2D, I want my brain and my experience to interpret what's really going on underneath me. And the more that you turn that stuff up and the higher you run those filters, the more it just takes off your screen. So I call it a dirty screen. Always
Yeah.
have. So a lot of times when I get novice anglers, maybe in my boat, and they look at my screen, they're just like, "Oh, you got a lot of clutter. Is that all fish?" It's like, no, but if I turn my filters up, it's going to filter it out, and I'm afraid I'll miss something up in the top of the water column or in the midsection. So I think you're right, Jason. I'm not a big fan of turning those filters up. I want to run them as low as humanly possible, as far as rejecting out different information from my screen. So that would be something I would definitely tell people. Like 2D, just I always go back to it. Keep turning your sensitivities up until you're really uncomfortable with how noisy your screen is.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. That's good to hear. I think people need to hear that because people just tend to clean things up too much. I don't know what
Yep.
kind of miracle they're looking for there, but I learned early on by fiddling and practicing more than others. I fished for 2 years with just my graphs, and people thought I was nuts. But I know this stuff very well, and I'm very confident in what I see and how I see it and what I'm doing. And I'm not fiddling around with settings or trying to change something and lose fish. So, that
Yep.
that clean screen is just not doing you any good, no good at all.
Well, and it's filters, so you're taking up some of the processing speed too, like you said. So then you can start to get lags, and now you're just running it at a higher level that it's really unnecessary in most circumstances.
Yeah, I agree. Talk about Brew City. I don't want to leave that out. I know that
Yep.
you guys have all kinds of products. I want to pop this up real quick. Hopefully we don't lose our ice and we continue to have the opportunity to do some hard water fishing here. But you guys have
So
the
I've
product.
I've been working with Tim at Brew City for probably like a year and a half, 2 years now. And it's kind of funny. The reason I work with him is because I started running his pole right away, bought one off the shelf. And this was back when I was fishing head to head. He actually called a mutual friend. He's like, I should probably talk to that Heiser. I know he has a pole and he's talking about it a lot. And I just love it. The biggest thing I think that separates Brew City from a lot of the other poles out there is it's super easy to use. We have a mounting solution literally for any type and any kind of application. You can put it on a rail, a track. We've got it for the rod holders. So if you have Scotty, Ram, Cannon rod holders, it can just slide into the rod holder base. We've got riser kits. So if you're running an old John boat, need to get over the top of the gunnel. If you got a bass boat that you want to fix it in the bow, it'll bring that over the top with the riser. We've got one for a pontoon that I shot a video on last summer. So just there's a mounting solution for everything. It's super compact, it's versatile, and it's literally indestructible. As long as you don't have the pin in that pole while you're fishing, which is in the collar, there's nothing literally to break. And it's always funny because I say that, and it's in the instructions not to put the pin in while you're fishing, but inevitably it happens.
Somebody does.
And but besides that, like literally, it's super stable up to 7 miles an hour. We've done a lot of testing with that. And now for this year, we brought out the all season kit with Shields. So that's an exclusive product at Shields, but you can basically get the ice pole and the open water pole all in one box. So you got a solution for both open water and ice.
I will tell you that if you have it down a hole and you're in a snow bear and you hit the gas and go forward,
it will break.
It will break, but we still use it the next day.
But what broke on it?
The shaft shattered.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're putting it to the test there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So you can't use it to leverage like your snow bear out of a being stuck and stuff.
I mean,
so
that was extreme.
Are we gonna have to put that in a disclaimer now or what?
You better talk to my digger about that one.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, Sheldon's broken everything he's ever owned. So let's be honest with this. I've been fishing against Sheldon literally since the late 90s. And every once in a while, you can about imagine, because I mean, can't even tell you how old Sheldon is, but neither one of us have hit 50. And literally, we've been fishing against each other since the 90s in the Dakotas. So I love Sheldon. He's a great guy, great fisherman, but he's broken a lot of stuff.
It shattered. We had the up bar, and that broke. We could get that down into the mount, and we could get it back down the hole of the snow bear. We fished the rest of the day with it, but it definitely was well above abuse that anybody should put on it. I mean, when you're out in the hole and you hit the gas of the snow bear to go forward, not a good. It was underneath the snow bear, completely underneath it. And
well, and Sheldon needs some filters on his gas pedal. I know this because he's always got it to the floor. So if there's ever been a filter that's needed, it's Sheldon with a gas pedal or a throttle.
Oh, that was hilarious that day. Hey, Ray, summit pole.
He used a summit pole, hard to use while moving because the pole is flexible and the ram mount won't hold. What kind of cost am I looking at with a Brew City?
$375 plus or minus a little bit, depending on your mounting solution. But if you figure $400, it's in the ballpark, and that's like that'll get you whatever mounting solution you want to do. Like I said, a track, rail, or just a straight base. Cisco makes an aftermarket sport track bracket, so for like Lunds with both the 42 and the 90-degree sport tracks, put a Cisco aftermarket, put the Brew City right on top of that, and away you go.
So how fast in search mode? 5-7 miles? Can you do any fast?
7 miles an hour, no problem. Like literally, it won't. It all started from a trolling motor shaft. So he used to buy them from Minn Kota, and then Minn Kota quit selling him trolling motor shafts. So now he has them made. But that's what it is. So imagine you got your trolling motor down. You can go. I mean, they'll take a lot.
Good. Okay. Well, I think people need to know that too, because they buy this small unit and get out there and find out, like Ray, find out that it doesn't hold up to that 2 or even 3 miles an hour because the ram mount just won't hold it sturdy and steady enough. Won't hold it in place.
And not to pick on Ram, but it's one of the reasons I'm with Staybill mounts as well, and have been helping Bill Shimoda because for electronics, I mean, Ram has sold a gazillion mounts, but with our big electronics, 12 and 16 inch units, they just don't hold them up. So Staybill mounts does a phenomenal job, gets you into the same super tight places, and then you set it and you never have to go back and adjust them again.
Well, and it seems like the movement with live sonar is better at that 5 to 7 miles an hour than the 2D sonar and the down imaging and side imaging. It seems to accept it and give you a better picture. So to have a sturdy mount and a pole makes a ton of sense, even if it costs you $400.
Yeah. And I mean, unless you're like Kurt and drive around with it underneath the ice in a snow bear, it's the last one you have to buy.
That
we can't help that.
No, so you're sporting the Berkeley there. Let's talk Berkeley a little bit.
Well, and before I forget, so I teased everyone today on Facebook that I'm going to be on with you two wonderful fellas, and I wanted to get people to come to the show and listen. So I got some awesome products that Berkeley's been sending me, and I told you had to like and share the post, and I said there was one little tease, and here it comes. All you got to do is comment on that post what your favorite Berkeley bait is. It could be an old Berkeley bait. It could be a current Berkeley bait. Just post some kind of Berkeley bait on my deal. I'm going to enter you into that. And who knows, if there's not that many of you that enter, I'm going to send out multiple packs. But I've got some scented flicker shads. We've got some of the snap jigs. We got all kinds of new stuff. So I'm gonna send out to some, at least 1 4-pack of stuff to somebody. If there's more, we'll see what happens. But all you got to do is go to my Facebook, which is Corey Heiser Fishing, and comment on the post I made for today's show, and just tell me what your favorite Berkeley bait is. Can be what it used to be or what it is now. So it's all I'm asking.
And how long are you going to run that? When is
you know what day is it?
Back.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to do the drawing Friday afternoon. Let's give it 2 days. Does that sound fair, or should we do it Monday?
Yep. No, that's good.
I can't. Yeah, we're going to do it Friday at 3:00.
Excellent. All right.
Good point,
we're
Kurt.
looking for that.
And I knew that too. So 3:00 Friday, we're gonna have a winner pick for some packs of Berkeley baits that I'm gonna send to you.
Well, that's
fantastic.
Awesome.
I'm excited. I love Berkeley. Matter of fact, I'm a market affiliate partner, so I'm all about Berkeley. But let me just do this real quick because I want to shout out to these guys. It's kind of hard to see with my ring there, but you see the that's cowbell. So Walleye Nation's creation, or Walleye Nation Creations, obviously was on fire this fall. And I talked to Bill and I said, you guys need to name a crankbait more cowbell or cowbell. And he'd never seen the SNL skit. So they went and looked at it. And they're like, okay, we're probably going to have to do that. So they did make the more cowbell. And I've had more people ask me, what's that got to do with a cowbell? Well, more cowbell is about louder cowbell. It's not it's more cowbell. So I thought they were genius when they put the black hood, the Reaper hood on that Reaper. And then they went with more Wonder Bread. And I thought it was fabulous. So just quick shout out to Bill and Brian at Walleye Nation Creations for creating the cowbell. I was very excited about it. I thought it was awesome. And I'm sorry I did that back to back with Berkeley, but I thought if I don't do it now, I will forget. And I want to give them a big thank you and a shout out because it's cool. And I think some people want to buy it too. And I think they want to try it because it could catch a state record. You never know. But the Berkeley thing, boy, I'll tell you what, Berkeley is they're really stepping up, and Spangler is really key there.
No, big time. Dan is a genius when it comes to baits, and in fact, here in a couple of weeks, I'll be down to Spirit Lake. We're going to have a little walleye summit with some of the top walleye pros in the country on Berkeley staff, and Spangler will be there. But we had a lot of new baits coming. You know, the finisher, the power switch, the Credge. I mean, Berkeley is really just getting dialed in on this forward-facing sonar and understands that's where a lot of the fishing market is headed. And they're producing some baits right now that will absolutely catch fish while utilizing your forward-facing sonar. In fact, my top finish last year was second place at the Sioux, and all those fish came on the champ swimmers. So it's
have you had a chance to run the Credge or the finisher yet?
Not the Credge. I did have some finishers last fall. Caught some fish on Devil's Lake and on Ottertail on them. They're definitely going to be a player. I can tell you if I was going to Winnipeg, I would have some for this week. I hear you guys are going. But it's got a slower fall. It's almost like a jerk bait without the nose of it. And it's got kind of a completely different fall. And it's definitely going to be something that you're going to want to have in your walleye arsenal.
Awesome. Hey, by the way, if you're going to be in the Spirit Lake area, Okoboji, I'll be there on the 17th. I'll be at Snappers. I'll buy beers. If you guys are there, I'll buy beers.
I think it's the next week, Monday. Is it the 25th or 6th or 7th?
Of course,
I'll be there.
Monday. Yeah, that would be, exactly. That's the way it works out. But it's okay. I mean, what the heck?
Yeah.
So, well, it's awesome. I'm glad that you stepped up and gave people an opportunity to win some baits. That's fantastic. So, and is it on Corey Heiser Fishing, right?
Yep. Go to Corey Heiser Fishing on Facebook. And I got to answer this because my good buddy Tanner's on here. Over under donated jig wraps. I can see this in Devil's Lake. Tanner, you're definitely going to want to take the over. Over the last 10 years, I will promise you there's been over 1,000 of my jigging wraps left in that lake. In fact, there's been insane amounts of jigging wraps that I've left in that lake.
I love it. I love it. I love your website too. It is absolutely fantastic. And the fact that you were able to get it, how long have you had that?
I don't know. Like, I have no idea actually. Well, are you talking about the artificial eye site?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So Troy and I started that in 2014. So that's been 10 years already that we had that site. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's wonderful. I love it when people come up with cool stuff like that. And I saw that a couple of years ago and thought it was great.
You know, we're touching time here, but go into that artificial eyes because I couldn't forget about that till you brought it up that you and Troy went on a kick to not use bait.
Yeah, so we actually went 2014 through 2020 or 21. I went, never touched a piece of live bait. And it was basically a deal that we set out to prove that you could catch a lot of walleyes and be successful even in the national tournament scene without using live bait. And really what happened is it almost became the norm for people. So it lost some of its luster because of our own success, which sounds kind of a weird deal. But I remember like 2014, 15, 16, I would say those first 3 years, we were definitely the anomaly of guys not using live bait. And by 17, 18, 19, everywhere we went, guys were like way more dialed into the artificials than prior to that. So I know we pushed the needle, especially like in the Dakotas, Minnesota. You know, it helped that we had a lot of tournament success for a few years, won an MWC Team of the Year, multiple event wins, and numerous top 5 and top 10 finishes, all without live bait. And we did it in a lot of places, Big Stone, Cass Lake. I can't even remember all the places that we had success without live bait. And so it just kind of went away as far as like, there's so many people now that are setting out day in and day out with live bait. So I still obviously prefer to fish without live bait. I still prefer to use a lot of Berkley products. I mean, they make phenomenal stuff, whether it's scented plastics, crankbaits, hard body baits, it doesn't matter. They've got a whole slew of stuff, but it just kind of, I don't know if I want to say it went away, but because Berkley's even telling me now, like most of the promotional videos and stuff I do are still without live bait, obviously, but at least I have it in my arsenal to use live bait again, but I don't use very much. I can assure you that.
So let me ask you this: when you decided to do it, because I talk to fishermen. I always say I'm not the greatest fisherman in the world. I feel like I'm a counselor to fishermen, and with running the tournaments and stuff like that, it's a confidence thing, right? I mean, you can put on you can put on the finisher or the power switch, and I can put on the same thing and have no confidence in it. And I firmly believe that if you have confidence and I don't, you're going to outfish me every day of the week. So when you made that switch to go all artificial, was there a little bit of a learning curve because you didn't have the confidence in it? Because I'm the guy that, if I drop down something ice fishing, I've got to have a minnow head on it.
To be honest, yeah, it was a big learning curve. But one thing that was funny, our first year, 2014, was the worst year we had fishing together, and we did okay, but it wasn't great. But I remember after that season, it's to your point, so I'm going to go the roundabout way to get there. But that first season, we were trying everything under the sun to make a walleye bite and all kinds of freaky stuff, and the next year we looked at each other and we're like, we only need a handful of things to catch walleyes on artificials. Obviously, at the time, it was jig and wraps, ripple shads, power bait minnows, gulp minnows. And we literally were like, this is what we're going to stick to, and we're going to make them bite. And they did. And we caught a lot of fish. In fact, to this day, I don't know if you'll ever find me in a boat without a 3.5-inch ripple shad tied on one of my lines. It's just an automatic fish catcher. And you learn that like, without live bait, you get rid of all the crutches as far as like, I'll just drift down this shoreline and maybe I'll catch one. When you don't have live bait, you fish the highest percentage of spots. You fish a lot more efficiently, and honestly, it really does work.
So
I love hearing that ripple shad thing, because you hear that from Chase Parsons. You hear it from a lot of people. That ripple shad is something to have in your arsenal, no doubt.
Yeah. Chad Johnson asked, do you think scented baits actually make a difference?
Yeah, I do. And I know we're going over now, but one of the baits that I actually am giving away is a scented flicker shad. And I'll tell you, like, the science behind Berkley is so extreme, but in cold water, the scent molecules break down slower. So they actually stay in the water longer. So what I would tell you is, in cold water, spring and fall, your heavier scented stuff is going to give you a bigger advantage. When you get into the summertime, it's not as big of a deal because the scent disperses so fast in the warm water. It still can play a part, obviously. And when a fish bites onto something, it's the whole tagline. They're not going to let go because they've got something scented. But if you ever get a chance to get down to the Berkley labs and they make you sign that NDA that you're not going to disclose what's in the Berkley facility, you would have the same confidence that I have that their whole bait department's all scientists. Like, literally, it's scientists that love to fish, and it makes a huge difference. But anyways, last spring on Chamberlain, scented flicker shad was way better than the regular flicker shad.
Well, I could tell you it was Kurt's dad, Dave, that got me onto the shallow shad, the number 7. It was my confidence bait going into October, actually going in the end of September into October. And last year, I made the switch to the Money Badger because I had to, because I wasn't connecting. I wasn't catching fish on the shallow shad. And I was really bummed out because that That's a bait that Dave got me onto, and I hold it close to heart. But I sent a note to Spengler and said, every walleye I caught this fall was off the money badger. I hope you're coming out with something in the shallow version. So I think there's something, looming out there that is going to be rather competitive and be right in there for shallow water, because it was running a little bit deep, but it worked.
Don't forget about the hit stick. The hit stick that we came out with like 3 years ago. Winnebago casting cane beds last year. That was the number one bait I was casting, was a hit stick, and that's a shallow diving bait.
I do have a couple of the hit sticks. I caught a couple of northern on them, and so, but it was just me. It was that day, So I just went back to the money badger, and when I went back to it, I caught my 29-incher, and that was my personal best, and I was super excited about it. And it was great and fun to send Spengler a picture of it and say, hey, this money badger thing is money. So awesome stuff.
Absolutely.
The other day, what hook did you get in your hand? The money badger?
It was the money badger. Yep, but I am not gonna. I got back on the horse. I got
a Fusion 19 in there. Yeah, those Fusion 19s are sticky.
And I knew it was coming too. I bent down to measure it. It was 24.5. I reached over and I yelled no, because I saw it coming, and boom, hooked me. And it took me about an hour and a half to get it out. I finally slid because we couldn't get it, and I didn't want to pull it. I didn't want to do Kurt's trick, so I slid a hypodermic needle up over the barb and popped it out. But it took a buddy to help steady. So anyway, Chad.
Chad wants to know if those baits will bring coyotes in, because we got the coyote coming up next weekend.
Yeah, give them a little shake.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, you know what? It's been great to have you on here, Corey. Thank you very much. It's always good to chat with people in the industry and chat with someone different. And I haven't seen you for a while. Didn't catch you at any of the shows. So great to catch up here. Thank you very much. Good luck to you in the new season. Of course, folks, he's got one of the best looking boats out there. Going to have a brand new boat, but this baby, when it's on the water, is unmistakable, and it is a sweet ride. So can't wait to see the new boat on the water.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me on, and don't forget to go to Corey Heiser Fishing. Tell me what your favorite Berkeley bait is, and I appreciate all the support. And good luck to everyone this open water season coming up. And if you still got some ice plans, catch some more.
Awesome.
And
all right, we'll let you know how things go in Winnipeg.
I'm sure there might be a chance at Corey Heiser's clipping the top of that thing. So
I appreciate it.
Awesome. Hey, thank you much. Take care.
Thank you.
You guys too.